Welcome to Weekly Digest, where we highlight the work of ministers of government as they push the administration's development agenda. Picking up from where we left off last week, members of government were over the weekend on the ground assessing the impact of the unprecedented rainfall and flooding that Guyana experienced from mid last week into the weekend. Minister of Education Priya Manikchan, Minister of Legal Affairs Mohaber Anil Nandlal, Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water Susan Rodriguez, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works Didat Indar, along with Member of Parliament Dr. Tandika Smith, visited several flood-affected communities. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali also initiated a cabinet-level task force in an effort to tackle and directly respond to the flooding situation in communities across several regions. Prime Minister Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips on Sunday afternoon held a meeting at the Civil Defence Commission's headquarters with members of the cabinet-level task force and other stakeholders to map out the significant issues being encountered by the relevant departments, as well as highlighting solutions to immediately rectify those issues. Guyana has been named as one of the host countries for the 14th edition of the ICC Under-19 World Cup next year. The tournament will run from January 14 to February 5th, with Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as Trinidad and Tobago confirmed as other venues. A total of 10 venues will be used for the tournament.
Why did we make this kind of investment and direct this kind of energy? Is because I know that the sport and hosting the tournament matters. It matters in many ways. I'll start off from an economic perspective and then I'll also explain from a youth perspective. We've quantified internally at the ministry that in excess of $3 million of economic value will be coming to Guyana within the month of January. $3 million. We were not going to allow an opportunity to host the tournament where you're getting that kind of value of revenue stream directly, indirectly into the country and let that fritter away or disappear.
Residents of Soesdijk and neighbouring communities were given an early Christmas treat on Sunday as government teamed up with JSB Investments for its first ever community Christmas tree light-up in Soesdijk. Minister of Home Affairs Robeson Ben, who joined the celebration, commended private entities for the role they play in the country's development. Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for public affairs, Kwame McCoy, similarly noted that business entities must work together to ensure growth of communities. Some 300 residents from Enmore and surrounding communities along the east coast of Demerara will soon be employed as government plans on establishing a call centre there. Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, made the announcement on Saturday during the distribution of the $250,000 cash grant exercise at the Enmore Estate compound.
I myself visited here just a few weeks ago with one or two possible operators who are interested in establishing a call center in Enmore. We said there are lots of young people in Enmore looking for jobs. And very shortly we will have a call center established right here. That will create in excess of 300 jobs for people from right in this community.
Minister Singh said the move by government is aligned with government's commitment to stimulate opportunities, create jobs and improve the lives of Guyanese. While the extensive flooding has affected some 6,500 households throughout regions 1 to 6, not all are severely impacted. However, based on assessments conducted, the Pomeroon area in Region 2 has been impacted the most. Following a task force meeting at the Civil Defence Commission head office on Tuesday, Prime Minister Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips said the Civil Defence Commission has advanced efforts to assist those affected residents. To date, the CDC has received reports of 1,297 households being affected in Region 2. Of that number, 552 households have actually had water enter their premises.
However, notwithstanding the fact that the water has receded, the National Drainage Irrigation Authorities continue with their interventions in ensuring a lot of those outfalls, a lot of those canals are cleared. They've continued to maintain the pumps that are necessary to aid in getting the water off the land.
Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat is calling on the global community to combat climate change as it is a worldwide issue. The minister made the call at an award ceremony for the winners of the Green Energy and Renewables Essay Competition on Tuesday.
Climate change and cutting emission is a global or should be a global effort. And it must be a global effort. It should not be rest on the shoulders of us in Guyana alone or a few other countries around the world. It is everyone's business because climate change is impacting every single human being in the world. And all countries around the world need to take up that responsibility and ensure that we work towards transitional renewable energy. We work towards cutting our emission. We work towards minimizing the impact of the extraction of natural resources on our environment.
Minister Bharat says international climate change forums should not just be conversations. He says action needs to be taken. 6 students on Tuesday won themselves awards after taking part in the secondary school Green Energy and Renewables Essay Competition. Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat says the government is committed to protecting the environment.
I believe that we as a country and as a government, we are committed to ensuring that we build on that, to ensure that we cut our emission even further, to ensure that we place more emphasis on the environment, to ensure that we place more emphasis on sustainable mining and logging activities.
The essay competition is an initiative undertaken by the Ministry of Education and CNOOC Petroleum Ghana Limited to better educate youths about climate change and green energy. Human Services Minister Dr. Vindya Prasad said the ministry is committed to rendering support as 143 women graduated from the ministry's Women's Innovation and Investment Network WIN initiative at the Ghana Women's League Institute at Cove and John.
The journey that you started and you didn't know where it would lead, it has led you this far. Just by watching you win, I feel I've won multiple times. And I want you to continue to win. And so the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security makes this commitment through me that we are always here to support you.
The first batch of students completed courses in Introduction to Care for the Elderly, Introduction to Child Care, Introduction to Patient Care, Core Competency for Administrative Assistant, and Introduction for Microsoft Office Suite, of which they received accredited certificates from School of the Nations and the University of Ghana Institute of Distance and Continuing Education. On Wednesday, some 25 local businesses received certification from the Center of Local Business Development's Health, Safety, Security and Environment Free Mentorship Program in partnership with ExxonMobil Guyana. In brief remarks, Minister of Labour Joseph Hamilton reiterated government's commitment to ensuring all members of the labour force are safe in their work environment.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make this very clear to you today that the government of Guyana is concerned about the safety and health of workers in all spheres of economic activity, whether it be mining, agriculture, services, construction, manufacturing, or oil and gas, inclusive of the public sector, and is further committed to ensuring that at the end of the workday, workers can go home to their families who, in most cases, look forward to their safe return.
Additionally, Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onij Walleran, extended congratulations to the businesses that were a part of the program. Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, said the National COVID-19 Task Force is continuing to carry out routine visits to ensure businesses are complying with the gazetted measures. He made the statement on Wednesday during the COVID-19 update.
On a weekly basis, the task force would go out to do inspections of businesses, and over the last month, they would have written to more than 60 businesses, and in some instances, they shut them down temporarily because of repeated breaches of COVID guidelines. The task force will continue to do this during this season, And if persons are not compliant or if persons are repeat offenders, then certainly the task force would take the requisite action as it has been doing before. So this is an ongoing process and it continues in the month of December.
The Lamaha Yarracabra and Susdyke Neighborhood Democratic Council on Wednesday presented trophies to students who topped the recent National Grade 6 Assessment and the Carbon Secondary Education Certificate exams within the two districts. Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for public affairs, Kwame McCoy, while addressing the students, encouraged them to stay determined. Minister McCoy says government understands that education is key to development and therefore will continue to invest heavily in the sector.
Determination to do the right thing, the determination to avoid distractions, determination to move towards a particular goal of yours, the determination to make sure that you are not necessarily part of any particular gang or movement for the sake of just being part of them. You can decide what your future is like.
Government is committed to building the capacity of Guyanese to capitalize on job opportunities in the oil and gas sector. This was reiterated by Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat Indar, who delivered the feature address at the Berbice Chamber of Commerce and Development Association's Christmas luncheon in New Amsterdam. The minister was delivering the address on behalf of His Excellency, President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali.
It is the government's plan that for 2022, 23, 24, for the next 3 years, till to 2025, to train about 1,000 persons per annum. And these people will be trained at a facility that is accredited, which is the Port Moran. The facility is recognized by governments and institutions because they have a certification. And the training will be done there, right? So 1,000 persons per annum, in different categories of persons that can work in the oil and gas sector. Because it is a sector that we have to serve. We have to serve the sector with the manpower that it requires. As it grows, it will draw more requirement for manpower, and we have to train our people.
Members of the Guyana Police Force were on Thursday awarded for their outstanding performances throughout the year at their annual awards ceremony. The sum of $32.4 million was disbursed this year compared to $23.2 million in 2020. Meanwhile, some $300 million will be utilized to purchase oxygen for COVID-19 patients at the Infectious Diseases Hospital. Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, said during Thursday's COVID-19 update.
We have been paying approximately $1 Guyana dollar per liter of oxygen. And right now, our patients, when they're in the ICU, some of them require about 15 liters per minute. So you can do the math and you'll see how much that is costing us. In some instances, we need to give patients as much as 30 liters per minute. So on a daily basis, we're spending a lot of money. And some of these patients in the ICU would be there for a minimum of 10 to 15 days.
In addition to the oxygen, money will be used to boost the capacity of the National Reference Lab and to procure personal protective equipment for health workers. The journey for many children in the Upper Mazaruni area will become easier now that boat engines have been provided for several villages. The engines brought by Minister of Amerindian Affairs Pauline Sukai are for Camarang, Waramadang, Jawala, Kambaru, Omanik, Chinawing, and Kaku. The minister made the presentation in Camarang on Friday, along with Member of Parliament representing Region 7, Lee Williams, before they were distributed to the villages.
We are a river community, and so transportation is needed for movements of farmers, school children, miners, and so on. And so we would have requested for such an equipment. In addition to what we may have, but because of the population growth and activities on the rise of farming, schooling, and so forth, we really thank Minister for this intervention at this time. For example, during our floods, we were short of outboard engines. We had to visit every corner of the community At that time, we were, really in need of transportation.
Minister Sukai also brought with her other equipment to contribute to the village's economy and aesthetics. A radio set has already been given to Wiling, while Quibanang also received a solar set to harvest electricity. Government's crime-fighting strategy has been given a major boost with the approval of $225 million to provide a full complement of vehicles to the Guyana Police Force. The sum was approved as part of a larger $475.7 million budget for the Ministry of Home Affairs led by Minister Robeson Ben.
We intend to purchase 50 vehicles. And of course, this is to enhance operational response, crime fighting throughout the country. And as I said, it is to have us arrive at the point where we have the full or almost the full coverage of vehicles that we need, the full complement for the police force operations.
Some $150 million was also approved to purchase an aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle with ICAO requirements. It will then be stationed at the Eugene F. Correa International Airport. Meanwhile, over $100 million will be used to acquire additional resources for the installation of fire hydrants in housing schemes. An additional $40 million will then be utilized to repair fire hydrants in and around the city. Currently, only 50 of the over 600 hydrants have been restored. Intercaribbean Airways landed its inaugural flight in Guyana on Friday afternoon at the Cheddi Jagan International Airport with 48 passengers on board. Also arriving on the flight was Barbadian Minister of Tourism and International Transport, Lisa Cummings, and the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Donna Cadogan. Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onit Walran, and Minister of Public Works, Bishop Juan Edgell, were in hand to welcome the two officials. The Barbados minister also noted the bilateral agreement to joint destination marketing, joint information bulletins on the two countries' airwaves, and the commitment to provide training of Guyanese in the tourism sector. She also noted the intention to develop trade between the two countries so that both are able to identify goods and products in particular that originate in Guyana, which could be sold in Barbados and the reverse. Meanwhile, Minister of Public Works Bishop Juan Edgell also welcomed Intercaribbean as a partner for development.
We want to see dozens of airlines operating out of Guyana. I did say to Intercaribbean at their launch, competition is good, and we encourage competition, but we must also be partners. Serve Guyana well. I think the main focus at this time is that people want to have confidence in an airline, and while I'm standing here, based upon what I know, there'll be several options and convenient flight times in and out of Guyana with Intercaribbean. Some days, multiple flights, and that is what is important. So the Guyanese public should really have a good treat.
That's it for this edition of Weekly Digest. For these and other government-related information, do log on to our website, dpi.gov.gy, and our social media platforms as well. Goodbye.